Hey everyone, welcome to Screw the Stock Market, where we focus on taking control of our lives and our futures and our finances. And we do this not through the traditional investing in the stock market, but by other more entrepreneurial investing types of ways, such as real estate. Today, we have a guest who her name is Tamika Maultsby, and she has a really interesting story where she'll share with us her story of how she uh, pretty much she took a punch in the face investing in the 2008 bubble, and then she still got up and dusted herself off and tried again, and now she owns her first 3-unit apartment building. And I think it's a really good story of someone who's early in their career, because for a lot of people who haven't started or who haven't making taken that first leap yet, it's really cool to hear stories of people who are just 1 or 2 steps ahead of you. And so I
Yeah,
think,
and
what
she's
did you
a real
think about the
beginner.
show? With that?
I mean, like I said, she's a real beginner, and that's like really valuable for first time listeners or first time people who are just getting ready to dip their toe into this whole market and this whole new venture and enterprise. Um, to know that this is something that could be done. Anybody who had zero experience can just pick up and run with it. That's great. And as we discussed before, she's just good people. She's just fun. We
Yeah,
spend way more time laughing off camera than we did while interviewing. So she was just a joy to talk to.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we love the fact that there's people listening to the show. We're getting good feedback and everything like that. But at the same time, I think we're just enjoying it ourselves too. Like, it's just fun getting to know these people, building these relationships, and just having fun. So we hope that
Yeah.
you take something away. We hope it's valuable for you. I'll also put in a little plug for an event that I'll be attending in early June, June 2nd through the 4th, I think, is Deal Maker Live. It's one of the biggest multifamily apartment investing conferences in the country, and I'll be attending. It's in Dallas, Texas, and you're invited. So I'll make sure to put a link in the show notes that'll give you a 10% discount on any level of attendance that you purchase, whether that's virtual or in person, or I think they have like, gold level things where you get to rub elbows with the big shots. I think Damon John is going to be the keynote speaker. But I'll be there. It should be fun. This will be my first time going, but it's relevant to all different types of people who are interested in apartments, whether you're a passive investor or an active syndicator or whatever it is that you do. If you're interested in apartments, this is probably a good use of time. So we'll put the link in the show notes, and again, that 10% discount, and it'll give me a little commission. That'll be nice. I'll welcome that, full disclosure. But other than that, let's do the show. Enjoy, and thanks for listening. So, Tamika, thank you so much for joining us today for Screw the Stock Market. We're really excited to have you on the show. Today is gonna be what we call kind of like I don't know, emerging investors, emerging action investors. Uh, you'll be the episode 1 of this ongoing series, because yeah,
That sounds great.
we're it's really inspirational. We're going to be having you tell us the story of your journey to your first deal, your first big move towards financial freedom. And so, what we'll do is we'll start with you just telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from, and how you got to where you are, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect. So, first of all, thank you for having me. My name is Tamika Maultsby, and I am from the Maryland area, right outside of Washington, D.C. Um, in my day job, I actually work in education. I am a compliance officer for a public charter school in Washington, D.C. And I recently purchased, I want to say my first deal, but it's actually not my first. It's probably my first. I got into the real estate game maybe in 2008, when everyone was getting loans for just breathing. So I got into the real estate game at that time. Bought a shell to fix and flip. I fixed the property, got ready to flip it, and lo and behold, the mortgage industry crashed.
Oof.
Couldn't sell it, couldn't rent it, couldn't do anything. And unfortunately, to be able to save my own home, I had to walk away and just let it go into foreclosure, had to file bankruptcy, and then just rebuild. So fast forward a couple years later, I was, at home like everyone else during the pandemic, working from home, and decided, you know what, I think I want to get back into this real estate game. We're going to try this again. And decided to do some research, followed all the podcasts and the websites and listened to all the gurus, and decided, you know what, I'm gonna buy a multifamily this time, do a buy and hold, and see what comes of it. And from there, I actually bought my first multifamily. I bought it in a small town that I had never heard of in West Virginia, Wellsburg, West Virginia.
Hold on.
And
Hold on
it's
now.
just,
How and why did you end up in West Virginia? I think that's one thing you should clarify, because a lot of people I know, whenever they start getting into this real estate, and actually I try to advise them against doing this, they just focus on home and what's new to them. So how did you end up in West Virginia of all places?
And Aziz, you have some
so
experience
yeah,
in
great
West Virginia
question.
too.
Yeah, I try to
Right.
black out those years. All right.
So yeah, great question. While I was doing my research, I heard one lady said, she said, you don't have to invest in near your home. And like I said, I'm right outside of DC. There was no way in the world I was going to invest in Washington, DC, Alexandria, Northern Virginia, any of those places, because the prices are
You
just
mean you can't afford a
outrageous.
$2 million
So
shack?
no, not yet. Maybe tomorrow, but not today. Tomorrow we're looking good, but not today. So I said, that makes perfect sense. She was like, if you can drive there, then or fly there, or I think through the pandemic we literally proved you can run the world from your desk. Like, you don't have to go to the property. So just started looking. I think I started to Google cities 2 hours from me. And somehow I ended up in West Virginia. And then from West Virginia, I think I was looking at Wheeling, West Virginia, and I found a property there that I liked. The numbers didn't work out, and I ended up in Wellsburg, West Virginia. And the interesting thing about my journey is I bought the properties sight unseen. I saw it on paper and in pictures, but I bought the property sight unseen. Everybody that has helped me purchase the property, fix the property, I actually just met them, and I bought this property in November.
I gotta add,
So
I'm somewhat familiar with West Virginia, and even I've never heard of what did you say, Wellsburg? Yeah,
Wellsburg,
yeah, I've never
West
even heard of
Virginia.
that place. And I'm somewhat familiar with West Virginia.
Yep.
So the fact that you were able to find this place and comfortable enough to just invest in it, that's saying a lot right there.
Yeah, and it's a very small town, and if you listen to the gurus, they'll tell you, you should go into a town that's this amount of population. The population is growing, and this and that and the third. But the interesting thing is, I think what people forget is people need places to live in small towns too. So when I decided to purchase the property, and I was talking to my realtor, and he was like, Tamika, I promise you, you're not going to have any problems renting your space, because just like every place else, there is a shortage of rental property. So like I said, it's a very small town. I'm learning, I don't want to say small town politics, but just the ways of small town. People move a little bit slower. They just, they don't move like in the big city. You make a phone call and request some services. They may call you back tomorrow. They might not call you back ever. But on the flip side, the people are great. Everyone that I've had to deal with has just been like good people. And like I said, people need a place to live, and I have had no issues with renting my property. I've had a wait list ever since I've had the property. And it's been, and like I said, it's been great. I bought the property sight unseen. I still to this day have never met my realtor, and we talk daily. I think I saw the property. I had owned it maybe 3 months, 2 months before I even went to the property. So it's really been it's really been an experience, and it's been a journey. One thing a lot of people say, well, hey, I can't believe you're buying property that you've never seen. But I think it's important to remember when people buy property, you're buying an asset and a funding stream. So if the numbers work, why not? And it's not crumbling. I mean, I did have it inspected, and he did confirm that, yes, there is actually a building here. And these are some things that need to be fixed. But it's actually been a great experience. The people have been great. Yeah, and
Well,
I'm
I want to
learning a
ask you a
lot
few
about being a
questions.
landlord. Sure.
So, first, I think there's a few different, let's go back to the beginning. So this isn't your first deal, right? You had a deal and it didn't go well. And I think that's a really important thing to
Yep.
spend a little bit more time on because, especially on shows like this, I think it's really common for us to be like, oh, I did this, this, and this, and now I'm loaded and now I'm successful. And it just always seems to work out. And I think it's awesome. It's a really great opportunity to share that it doesn't always work out,
Yeah.
how you handle
Yeah,
it when it doesn't work out, and how you still ended up coming to the decision that this is still something I want to do, but I'm going to try something different. So
yeah.
tell us about, so first of all, you said it was to save your home. So you were able to keep your primary residence even though the flip didn't work out.
Yes, it didn't work out. So yes, to be able to save my home, I had to just walk away. I don't want to say thankfully, but thankfully, other people were walking away from their homes as well. And I just see it as a lesson. I grew up in a family that believed there are no mistakes. Everything is an opportunity. It's a learning opportunity. It was an expensive learning opportunity, but even in that process, I had never flipped a house. There weren't the opportunities, or the information was not as readily available then as it is now. So, I got, what do you call it? Shut down by the inspector. Cause I was like, inspectors, we don't need to inspect anything. So I got shut down by the inspectors, went to turn on the gas and found out that the gas had been turned off at the street like 20 years before. And it was going to be $30,000 to turn it back on. So it was just all kinds of learning experiences. They were frustrating. They cost me a lot of money. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's just money. You know what I mean? And not to sound pretentious or entitled, but it really, like, it didn't take my health. It was just money. And money can be, you can get it back. It took some time. Like I said, I had to file bankruptcy and rebuild, but I did rebuild. I did rebuild. And then when it came time to when I decided that I wanted to purchase more property, and now there's so much information out here to assist me and make sure that I don't make those same bad mistakes. That wasn't available then, but now there's podcasts, there's Facebook pages, there's Bigger Pockets. There's books on audio. There's, the real estate meetups. There's so much information out there now that wasn't available when I first tried.
And just to kind of follow up on that process too, I know you mentioned that the first time when you flopped on this, it was a flip attempt, whereas this transaction is a investment in a multifamily that you plan on holding. So the difference between those two processes, do you think that played a major role as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if anybody wants to get into this, it's important to decide what strategy you want to deal with, and stick to that. I don't think I'll ever do a fix and flip. Well, I'm not going to say that. I might do a fix and flip again later. But like, for instance, a sailing, that's not me. But I do like the buy and hold. So yeah, trying something different, I think has been helpful. The fix and flip to me is, it's a risk. It's a risk. You never know when you finish, where the market is going to be. Um, whereas buy and hold is more of a marathon and not a sprint. So it kind of gives you a little bit of space to, ride the wave or whatever. Some people always need a place to live, no matter what's going on in the market. People always need a place to live. So I think this is a better strategy for me. So yeah,
Would you say
definitely.
it was a safer strategy?
Oh, for me, yes. For me, yes. For where I am in my life right now, in terms of still working full time, for me, it's a safer strategy. Like I said, I may do a fix and flip later on. Like I learned a lot, but I think it definitely is a safer
So,
strategy.
okay, so now we've, taking a hit, getting knocked down, and getting up, applause, because that's honestly,
Mm-hmm.
I've met and I've come across a lot
Thank
of
you.
people who get knocked on their behinds and never get up, or will say, hey, real estate is not a good investment, or real estate isn't a good investment for me. Um, and so first of all, that's like just like mark of a champion right there, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank
Yeah.
you. Yay.
And so now what was it about this deal? So you gave me a number when we spoke last time that I was blown away by. Was kind of, and I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing numbers about like kind of how this deal worked for you, but for me that was a really exciting number that you shared. Do you mind doing that?
Yeah, no problem. Listed at 100,000, and I ended up getting it for $20,000 under asking.
Ooh, that's
Had
neat.
some things, yeah, that had some things, it kind of all worked out. The person who was selling it was actually in California. His parents were kind of taking care of it, and then they got sick, and he just needed to get rid of it. So it worked out. Again, I have a phenomenal realtor who was just like, we're gonna get this. So so yeah. It cash flows. I mean, it's not, it's not going to make me a millionaire, but for my first deal, after expenses and capex and everything, cash flow is about 700. Now it also needs a new roof, and there's some things I got to take care of. So I probably will really get to enjoy that until for a couple of years, or maybe a year,
Hold
probably
on,
a year,
hold
because
on.
now.
You're over here saying that 700 ain't anything. I mean, the last deal Alex and I were looking at, we were looking at a cash flow of like 500 a piece. So 700 is phenomenal for something that's only $70,000 or
Exactly.
$80,000. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, it's definitely a good deal, and I like it now. Understand, I'm also learning to be a landlord, which I'm earning my $700 a month. Um, but um, but again, it needs some work. It's an old building. So thinking about box gutters and things that come with just old buildings. So
Now,
Yeah,
are you?
but
yeah.
I definitely just want to
So
emphasize that
hopefully.
again because that is just a really good, I guess ratio, right? So I'll give an example of a property I sold, which was my first investment property. I sold it for $420,000, and I was making $300 a
Mm-hmm.
month in cash flow. And so, you know, the
Mm,
that's just a really bad ratio compared to yours, where if I could repeat what you
Yeah.
did with the same $400,000 worth of real estate, it would be much better, right? Um, so just again, applause again. That's just awesome. And
Yeah, you're
again,
doing
thank
phenomenal.
you.
I don't think
yeah,
you realize.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's time to grow. You know what I mean? I'm ready to go to the next step. My mentor, who is, you all know very well, who I also just met, but we met online months before I bought the property. And, he's like, all right, it's time to grow. It's time to go to the next step. So it's time to move on. I'm not sell it and move on, but it's time to move on to the next thing. So I'm excited. Again, I had a great realtor, worked out, you know, to the best with this one. Like I said, I still have some
and
roof.
I wanted to confirm you're
Roofs
talking
are
about Eric,
expensive.
right?
They're very expensive. Yes,
Yeah.
Eric is my
So
mentor.
Eric from episode
Eric is
one.
great. I found him from, yes, absolutely, from episode one. I found him on Bigger Pockets, just kind of reached out and was like, hey, I have questions. And he was like, call me. So, he was very helpful in helping me, kind of navigate that as well. So I think one thing, if anybody is trying to get into this real estate game, um, there's so much information available between podcasts and websites and people who like real estate, like love to talk about real estate. So if there's, anyone is listening that's like, oh, I don't know what to do, just ask. People who love real estate will talk about it for hours, will hand you any information that you need. They're just really open to share. Like I said, I reached out to Eric from a post that he had made 2 years prior. And he was like, hey, call me. And he just downloaded information to me to the point where I was like grabbing envelopes and just writing on the backs because he was just giving me so much information at one time. So yeah, if anyone wants to get into this, the information is there, or just ask. People will gladly help with the information.
Networking aspect of this, call it a field, but I guess it is a field, is really, really critical. I mean, there's so much information and so many people who are doing this that know more and better than, anyone who's just starting off, that, it's really beneficial to hit the ground running with someone that's experienced. Matter of fact, meetup groups are also really critical in that regards. Nowadays they're all virtual and online. Matter of fact, Alex actually runs one as well with various people in the real estate game, whether they're investors, agents, all across the board, brokers, and that's like a good place platform. Actually, Tamika, you were on there just the other day.
Yep, I was on there yesterday.
So again, everybody there is friendly. They all shared their contact info. They all said, if you have any type of questions you need on a particular topic, I'm the expert on this. Give me a call. Here's my contact info. Yeah.
And just ask.
Some of those guys, I mean, some of those people on that call, everyone's really friendly and humble and stuff. And they, if anything, I felt like some of them kind of, not that they talk themselves down, but they are hesitant to share the breadth of experience that they've had. I think almost out of respect for those of us who are just getting started, right? They don't want to come across, but there's people there who like have done huge things, who've raised millions and made millions and done all these things, and they're on this call with us offering help to us, and it's like, it's really encouraging, and it's really empowering to hear someone like that say, call me and talk it out, and we'll help you avoid mistakes and we'll help you find opportunities. It's cool. So
I mean, there was that,
and most of the meetups that I've gone to have been like that. And again, one of the good things that came out of the pandemic is now you can be on a meetup with, I was on one the other day, and there were people from California, there were people from Arizona, they're all over. Whereas, prior to the pandemic, you were kind of confined to your little area. But now that people are so familiar with Zoom and it's just kind of expected, I mean, you can be on a meetup with all kinds of people from all over the country. And so meetups are great. I would encourage people to also try Facebook pages. Anyone that knows me, I am a Facebook page advocate, because you're on with people from all over the world, actually. Where they're investing, they're asking questions. You can ask a question, and people, again, are just so giving with information. So yeah, I mean, now there's so much available. And again, the Bigger Pockets website, podcasts like this. I mean, while I was working from home during the pandemic, I literally listened to so many podcasts. I mean, just over and over and over and over, because there was so much information available. You could just suck it up. So yeah,
I'll kind of share like one of the hints that for me with those podcasts is huge, and I'll say this for our listeners, but even if you're listening to other podcasts, is contact the people that are on the show, right? If you have a guest like Tamika or somebody that you feel like you resonate with, that you connect with, actually call them, actually reach out, because they come on the podcast because they want that exposure, and those are people that are going to help you out. Same kind of things with those meetups. Thank you so much for listening to the show. It's a big step to realize that there's a whole world of opportunity out there for you. And then you've already started to dive into your education, which is required to be able to navigate the world beyond the stock market. But the next step is to take action. So if you want a chance to invest with me and my team, sign up for our investor club at legatoinvest.com/invest. We'll schedule a call with you, get to know you, your background, and your investment objectives. And if there's a good fit, we'll start to present you with live opportunities to invest in multifamily apartment deals. So again, legatoinvest.com/invest. Thanks again. So Tamika, can you tell us a little bit about what's next for you now? So you got this first multifamily deal. You started to allude to something bigger and better next, but tell us more.
So I am looking at bigger deals, learning how to do syndication. I'm reading books. Alex, you recommended a book yesterday. I've already purchased it about raising money. So, I'm just trying to go to the next level. Again, I'm going to be reaching out to some of the people that were on the podcast, again, to just kind of soak up information. My next goal is to buy something, maybe 10 units or more, learning how to raise capital. Eric Mentor has told me that I'm not allowed to go any lower. So, now it's about pushing myself, learning how to crunch the numbers. I can crunch numbers for a small multifamily, but once you get to those big ones, it's a little intimidating, but that's fine. We're going to work it out. We're going to figure it out. And just see what happens. One of the many podcasts that I was listening to during the pandemic, and the guy said, when he got his first million, he wasn't surprised because he just essentially did what everybody else did. And I was like, oh, okay, we're just gonna follow the leader. So, and essentially that's what, that's my plan. I'm gonna do what everybody else does, learn from them and see what happens. I'm excited. I'm excited. It's a challenge, but I'm really excited.
I mean, Eric, for example, his story is really encouraging considering, I mean, what is he? He spent like all of last just sitting in Spain, just hanging out, just because he's free enough to do that.
Exactly.
I mean, I wish I could do that.
When I called him, I'm telling you, when I reached out to him and I was like, hey, do you mind giving me some information? He was like, call me. And he was in Spain and he was trying to buy some property. I was like, are you kidding me? So yeah, I mean, that's what I'm shooting for, to have that level of freedom. So, and it's going to happen. We're going to do it together. I'm excited.
Well,
so
do you have any words of wisdom for someone who might be listening and maybe they have their day job and they're maybe 2 years away from where you are right now? I mean, you've touched on a few points that I think have come up over and over again, but is there anything that you'd like to tell yourself a year ago or 2 years ago that you didn't know today?
So I think one thing that I would say to new investors, there's always a way. When I learned that having an investment property, I was going to have to come up with 25% down. I was like, where am I going to get that? And I realized, hey, I got a house, and values went up. So I refinanced. I think I refinanced my house like 3 times and took money out. Make the house work for you. Or if you're a young person, you haven't purchased a house yet, the house hacking. I wish I had known about that years ago. Do some house hacking and grow your portfolio that way. But I think it's important for people to know there is always a way. If this is what you want to do, there are people who from all walks of life, college, no college, been incarcerated, who are doing real estate. So real estate, one of the things about real estate, it doesn't care who you were or who you are, how much money. There's always a way. If you're as long as you're willing to look outside the box, if you can't afford Washington, D.C. or Chicago, look outside of those areas. Look at those submarkets. Cincinnati, Ohio is a little bit cheaper than Washington, D.C. and L.A. So just be open and to something new and don't feel like you have to stay in your own little box. So, and it can be done. And again, I cannot stress enough, ask. There's so much information out here. There's so many different ways to get things done. And that's the beauty of real estate. There's so many different strategies, whether it's wholesaling, to fix and flip, to buy and hold, to Airbnb arbitrage. I mean, there's so many things. You just have to figure out what works for you and your pocket and your plan.
And I think one thing that some of our listeners should also be mindful of is kind of being comfortable to reach out to real estate agents outside of your area, because I mean, you can't find a deal in West Virginia by just speaking to an agent that's here in the DC area. I mean, unless you find one that really is on top of their game and specializes in external investments. So just kind of cold calling and checking out different agents in the markets that you're looking at. You know, even if you don't know if that market is a good market, you can just call them and say, hey, I'm an investor. I want to establish a long-term relationship. Can you give me the 411 on your area? Is it worth it?
Absolutely. Yep. And not just with realtors, but also with lenders. You know, lenders offer different packages. You know, a local credit union might give you something more than a big national lender. So again, and just like you said, just reach out, try something new. The worst that could happen is they say no. And then, you know, you go find somebody else, you know what I mean? So it's not going to hurt you. It doesn't cost you any money to just reach out and make connections. So I would just encourage, you know, if this is what you want to do, even if you're not sure if this is what you want to do, if you buy a property, you can always sell it. You know what I mean? It's not stuck to you. You can always sell it. You can always say, you know what, this landlord thing is not for me. Let me sell it. So there's so many opportunities in real estate, and you know, I'm super excited to just try and see what's out there, try new things, meet new people. There's all kinds of people in this field, and I love it. I'm loving it already.
You got me super excited when you said shopping for lenders, because for the long, I thought I had to go to my, you know, Wells Fargo down the street or PNC or whatever big major bank. That when I found about local small size banks and lenders and how much they will work with you and how much they will give you stuff that you don't even qualify for sometimes just because they have a relationship with you. I was like, that is amazing.
It's because they have a relationship. Exactly. And I found that out going to the local what do you call it? The meetups, just listening to other people. So it really is. I mean, there's so many options and so many opportunities in real estate. I mean, I think even you all had someone on here not too long ago that was selling tax deeds or investing in tax liens or something like that, right? I mean, there's so many opportunities, whatever fits your budget or your plan or your long-term goals. You can do one, you can do them all if you want, you know what I mean? So I would encourage anyone, take a leap. It sounds like a lot, but it really, you know, it really isn't. Get your first deal down. That's what I was told. Just get the first one down. And that's the hardest part. Once you get that done, you're on your way.
You know, one last thing that I'll see if we can try to. I'm still struggling. You know, like this show is relatively new, and I'm still struggling to find the right words to kind of describe this, which is what the show is really all about. And it's essentially that we have this path in life that's offered to us. It's like, hey, get a job, go to school, get a job, work until you die, hope and pray that by the time you're not able to work, you have enough in your retirement account that you aren't a burden on your family and society. I think that's like path A.
And inflation hasn't killed your retirement account.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, so this show isn't necessarily just a real estate show. It's more about this other path. And we gotta come up with a good name for it. That's like, I don't know, isn't there a poem like the about like the two paths in the wood and I took the one, whatever. Anyways, we got to come up with a good catchy name for that second path. And you know what you're doing, real estate is essentially more than real estate itself. It's about control. It's about taking responsibility for our lives. And so I guess you still have your day job and you still have probably your 401k and all that stuff. When did you realize that that path is not something that you have to do, or that there's an option to that? I'm curious about that because I want to start to find words for that as we continue talking about that in the show.
So my whole career is that path um, the path not taken from the very beginning. Like I went to law school to do one thing, ended up in education. So this is winding roads is clearly what I do. But I think I realized during the pandemic that I just wanted something more. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love my job. I love my job and I love the people that I work with. Like it's every day is a new day. And so I enjoy that. I enjoy, deciding what I want to do that day. I unfortunately lost several people from COVID. And I think it kind of makes you realize what's important. You know what I mean? Like I remember driving to see my mother, driving an hour and then waving to her from the window, you know what I mean, or from the street, and I think it just made me realize, you know what, I want to be able to do what I want to do with my day, and more. I don't want to say more importantly, but I also want to be able to share this information with my nephews. I think the younger generation has kind of figured out, like, yeah, we don't want to work like this all the time. This is not what we want to do, which is great. But I need them to eat. You know what I mean? Like, as you find your path, I need you to learn how to eat so that you're not sleeping in Amika's basement as a grown man. But, I want to give to them generational wealth. I don't have any children, so I want to be able to give them that. I fortunately came from a family that is super supportive. I've started multiple businesses, and every time I'm like, hey guys, I want to do this. They're like, absolutely, let's do it. But I think this is something that I can really, share, pass on to my nephews, and they can pass it on. I mean, real estate is how you build, in my opinion, is how you build generational wealth. And they've already started. How do I do this? And how do I do that? And show me how this works. So in addition to, it's more, to me, it's more than just for me. It's also for my family and my nephews and generations to come. I mean, if you think about it, most millionaires, billionaires have real estate.
Yeah.
So, and that's how they became millionaires and billionaires. So again, do what has already been done. It clearly works. Let me do what they do.
Yeah.
So
No, I think that's just super powerful, and that is just a really powerful motivator about why you do what you do and what you believe, and I resonate so much with that desire to be able to share these ideas with my daughter, with my nieces and nephews.
Mhm.
And honestly, I've struggled a little bit to do that, right? Like I remember my niece, I was reading some book about like building wealth or something, and I remember she made a comment something along the lines of, well, if all you think about is money, of course, and I think she kind of felt that, oh, money's, maybe she misinterpreted this drive that I have to mean, hey, like money is the most important thing, when it's not. It's really this freedom, and it's really, life is short. Let's
The
do
freedom.
something
Yep.
that we care about with our lives. Let's live with passion. It's exactly, we're the three of us are on the same page.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Life is, I mean, and again, if the pandemic has showed us nothing, I think it has showed us that life is short. You know what I mean? And I don't know what I would do if I had nothing, if I had my whole day to myself, but I'm really excited to kind of figure it out. And money is not everything, but
It helps.
it helps. You know what I mean? You get a little bit further in a BMW than you will on a bike, but but you're right. It really is about just freedom to do what you want to do, and again, being able to pass that information and that freedom down to your children, your nieces, your nephews, your family. It's about building. For me, it really is about building generational wealth, because I can't take this building with me, but I can leave it to my nephews. So, if they have to sell it, if there's a major emergency and they have to sell it, great. If you can keep it and just continue to build from it, great. Because at the end of the day, someone is in Wellsburg, West Virginia, is always going to need somewhere to live.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important and critical, especially considering, like with all three of us, we come from, minority households. And on top of that,
Yeah.
Alex and I both are from like immigrant families. So, this is not things that we were exposed to. I mean, I know my family, it's the mindset of go to school, work hard, keep your head down, and just keep working until you die. I mean, my parents didn't take their first vacation until after they retired. And then, that was in 2019, and then COVID hit. So
Right.
I'm not trying to relive that same trajectory.
No, no. So I'm excited. I'm excited for what we are all going to do for our children and our future generations. And someday they're going to look back and listen to this podcast and be like, "Wow, look what our great 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 grandparents did for
I
us."
love it. I love it. Well, Tamika, thank
Yeah.
you so much. Can you share what, do you have an email or a website or something where you'd like our audience to reach out to you?
Absolutely. My email address is my first initial T and my last name, Maultsby, the number 74 at Gmail. And people are more than welcome to reach out. I love talking about real estate, the little bit that I know. And what I don't know, I know who to call and we can talk about it together. So yes, absolutely. Please, they're more than
I
welcome
love
to
it. I
reach
love your
out.
attitude.
And for our
Thank you.
listeners, any that are interested in participating in a meetup group or just kind of networking, feel free to reach out to the podcast, and we can kind of help you either join a group in our upcoming group that we're creating ourselves, and network. As we mentioned before, people are happy to share, and there's tons of resources out there. You're not gonna go out and do it alone.
Definitely. Yeah. And what we'll do is we'll put that in the show notes so that, there'll be the link right there to the next just to the community so you can see all the events as they come up. Good call. Yeah, because I mean, with the people who are listening right now, it's the show's just getting started. It's a relatively small group. We're getting good feedback from people, and we welcome that. We definitely, if there's something that you want to hear about on the show, let us know, and we'll do it. We'll do it. If you want to be on the show, let us know. We'll do it. Um, but at the same time, I envision this eventually becoming a nice community where we are doing deals together, where we're pushing each other, where we're actively growing our wealth as a group together. And so I think that would be a beautiful thing. And so get involved,
Mhm.
communicate with us, and we welcome that. Last but not least, is there any other announcements? I think we're good. Tamika, thank you. You've been great. One last point I did want to make.
Thank
One
you for
last point I
having
wanted to
me.
make, in particular, given your great attitude about just being available for people to help, is I've been in real estate as an agent for 7 years now. And after the fifth year was the first
Mhm.
time I realized, and I felt like I didn't even feel it. I still felt like I was new. I'm still like scrappy, trying to like build a business. But at that point, people started coming to me for help, newer agents. And that was the first time that I kind of said, hey, I can become a mentor. And so I started to do that. I officially became a mentor at my brokerage, and new agents come through and they contact me, and I talk them through like how to do their deals and how to get clients, and I felt new, but I still was maybe 2 or 3 steps ahead of those people who were brand new, and I still had something to offer. And so exactly with the same attitude that you said, you might have your first 3 unit building, but you're a few steps ahead of some other people who were just getting started. And I love that you have such a good attitude, willing to help anyone who's in need. So
Thank you.
awesome. With that, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Tamika. I'll go ahead and hit
Thank
I'll go ahead and
you.
hit stop.